Get Rich Education is brought to you by Norada Real Estate and Ridge Lending Group.
Welcome to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold, giving you information and ideas on the investment that has turned more ordinary people into millionaires and billionaires than anything else, and can provide you with more wealth and happiness than you ever thought possible. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, and educator, Keith Weinhold.
Welcome to Get Rich Education, episode 74. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. GRE is back to help you build durable wealth for yourself, the only show of its kind that's educational, actionable, and inspirational. So, the old advice to save money for the long term has echoed from generation to generation throughout history, and that old advice is outdated. It is not serving you. In fact, it hasn't even been relevant for more than a generation. Yes, saving money for the long term hasn't even been relevant for more than a generation. I wonder if you can recall the day you opened your first bank savings account. Okay, we all did it. I can remember going to Manufacturers Hanover Bank in Olean, New York when I was 12 to open my first account. It was done in person with a bank teller. My dad was there to help me. And in those days, it was all done manually. I got this little passbook, like a 4-inch square book with my initial deposit amount handwritten into it. It seemed like it was $500, okay? All right, remember, I had income from being the biggest kid baseball card dealer in town, all right? So opening that account made it official, and I had now entered the world of money, really, okay? But is the advice of saving money really good advice? Well, I think that the bigger issue is how people manage their money. The assumption most financial experts make is that the only way a person can retire is to save their way to retirement. There are just so many things wrong with this advice. Okay, first of all, it would take a ton of savings to maintain the standard of living that you really want. Second, inflation, all right, inflation meaning that your favorite brand of phone or pair of shoes will cost you many, many more dollars, euros, yen, or pesos in the future that they do today. Okay, if you take the ton of savings that it would take from my first example there, say it would take $5 million, well, even that won't actually stretch as far in the estimated 30 or 40 years of retirement you're going to have because everything's going to cost more. All right, then, well, if saving your way isn't there, then what's the better advice? It's that you don't save money for the long term. That's right. Don't save money for the long term. All right. Instead, save money for the short term to invest in a cash flowing asset. And I actually don't even like the symbolism or imagery of the word save at all, because saving money, that conjures up these visions of scarcity and cutting back and living below your means when you don't have to. As GRE listeners know, rather than the term saving money, I prefer the term or the phrase get liquid. Okay, so don't save for the long term. Instead, get liquid in the short term and invest in a cash flowing asset that pays you every month while you hold on to it during your youth, during your middle age, and during your old age, okay? The 401k is a lame savings plan. You pay into it during your healthier, most productive years in the hopes, mere hopes, that it will pay you a stream of income. And even then, it's only expected to do that in old age, all right? So there are just so many things wrong with the 401k that I barely know where to begin here. First, its long-term rates of return are barely going to beat inflation. I did an entire show on that. Second, you're paying it during your young, productive years rather than it paying you. Cash flowing real estate pays you when you're young, when you're old, and everywhere in between. Thirdly, if one thinks that this 401k, also known as a deferred compensation plan, is smart because it has the power of tax deferral, compare tax deferral to the cost of life deferral, okay? You're deferring your income in your working years. Therefore, your opportunities are being traded away just for opportunity in old age. Old age is when you're less opportunistic. It's when you're less healthy. It's when you're less active. It's when it's less able for you to do whatever it is that you want to do. That's why I call a 401k a life deferral plan. That has much more gravity than the benefit of a tax deferral plan. You're going to defer life in favor of taxes? I mean, and many feel tax rates are just going to be higher later anyway, and that's when you have to pay the tax in a 401k down the road. You didn't escape the tax. You only postponed it until later. And, I guess what are we up to here? Fourthly, it's sad to say, but, there's no guarantee that you're even going to be around to collect your benefit of 401k payouts, okay? Things happen to people. I'm not planning on anything happening to me, but in life, all you do know is that you don't know. So if you want to have what others don't, you have to do what others won't. What most won't do is buy a cash flowing asset because it takes a little education. What most do is plow funds and defer life into a 401k just because it's all done for them. If they only knew that such a small amount of education could bring them such a fantastic lifestyle arbitrage, they would regret that closed mind, okay? And here's the deal with education and investing return. You know how my favorite investor metric is the ROTI, the return on time invested. It's that your ROTI improves with time when you're into something like passive real estate investing, okay? Because your ROTI is simply your return divided by your time invested. Well, as you gain experience in finding the best deals, negotiating the best deals, in reading a property inspection report, the good news is that with each successive deal, you invest less of your time because you know your way around at that same given rate of return. So return divided by time means that as your time expended decreases, your ROTI goes up. That's some really great news. And the other thing that makes your return on time invested improve over time with income real estate, it's the fact that you're building a skill for life, because real estate, it's just something that doesn't go out of style. So we're not talking about learning like, what are some industries recently that have been made obsolete? It's not like learning about the rental DVD movie business industry or the VCR repair business or the newspaper distribution business, okay? With real estate investing, you're developing a skill for life because everyone needs to live somewhere. We're talking about investing time here. And you know what sets the successful apart? And one way that you know that one's future is bigger than their past, one great way for you to tell, is one that constantly asks themselves the question, what's my time worth? What's my time worth? And I don't know that I'd quite call this a jump, but to get control of your time, rather than learning how to fix everything in your rentals, instead just learn how to get the best property manager to handle all that. And look, I'll be very direct here. I'm not being disrespectful of an industry because I need this industry to live the life that I live. Property management is a low-paid, undesirable, time-consuming, disruptive job, all right? Hire a property management company. Maybe think of it this way. If you're still working at a job, just work an extra few hours a month at your job to cover the management fees, and those hours are likely going to be more predictable within your schedule than your property management duties would be as well, okay? So get around those right people. If you're hanging out with 5 self-property managers that spend too much of their weekend at Home Depot, well, then you're the 6th. If you hang out with 5 broke people, you're the 6th. If you're hanging out with 5 people that are often asking themselves what their time is worth, you're the 6th, and you're probably a good investor and you're living a good life. Hey, when we come back, we're going to play that 6-minute clip of Steve Harvey, You Have to Jump. Cash flow real estate investors, this is Get Rich Education's Keith Weinhold. Did you know that you can finance up to 35 income properties all with one lender? Ridge Lending Group specializes in investment property loans, and they do it in almost every U.S. state. Ridge has worked with tens of thousands of real estate investors and homeowners all over the country. They've been doing this for investors for so long that at this point, they've helped more families realize their dreams of becoming real estate investors than any other mortgage lender in the country. To find out more, visit ridgelendinggroup.com. getricheducation.com.
Are you looking for a roadmap to financial freedom? If so, we have a solution for you. Norada Real Estate is offering a limited number of free strategy sessions to help you get out of the rat race. Learn how you can create wealth and build monthly passive income. To set up a time with one of our knowledgeable investment counselors, simply go to noradarealestate.com. That's NORADA realestate.com.
This is Frank Gallinelli. To grow your wealth, listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. You know, about those commercials, some have asked me why the commercials change over time. Where are the providers that used to advertise on GRE? Well, quite simply, I don't want you to get bored with the same commercials. I want to incrementally bring new value to you, okay? Some of those early advertisers like Reef Oil and Gas, I mean, I'm still an investor there. Mid-South Homebuyers in Memphis, Tennessee, they're still a highly recommended turnkey provider and a really great one for a person to start with because they're such a low-cost way to go. Mid-South Homebuyers will almost certainly be advertising here again. On today's show, it is Ridge Lending Group and Norada Real Estate. Ridge Lending Group is that awesome lender who can finance up to 35 properties for you. In fact, the Ridge Lending logo, if you look right under the logo, I guess you call it the logo subtitle, it has the words, "Your Financial Freedom," right there in the logo subtitle. I mean, how many lenders are dedicated to your financial freedom? Ridge is a company that truly understands investors. That's why they're here. Their president, Chaley Ridge, you may remember, was our guest here a few months ago. I think that was episode 56. And then Norada Real Estate, NORADA, they provide you with nationwide turnkey cash flow investment property in some of the best investor advantage markets in the U.S. Norada hooks you up directly with a cash flowing address like 987 Mockingbird Lane in Jacksonville, Florida, for an example, just to make up a name. Norada's president will probably be here with me on the show sometime, so you can check them out. To learn more, you can go to getricheducation.com/guide to learn more about Norada. Let's listen to Steve Harvey. You have to jump here. Yes, the same Steve Harvey that hosts his own talk show and hosts Family Feud, the same Steve Harvey that famously screwed up the beauty pageant announcement a few months ago. Okay, so Steve Harvey, he gave this little, I guess, speech to his Family Feud television audience. It was either before or after an episode of Family Feud there. Steve Harvey was up on the stage, just kind of casually talking to his audience. And some sources say that he didn't even know that the cameras were rolling when he said this to the audience. But I want to play it for you here. And I mean, sheesh, I hope I don't really have to say this, but Steve Harvey makes some religious references. And if he doesn't share the same beliefs as you, then thank goodness that a GRE listener is open-minded enough to not let that cloud the message. Here is Steve Harvey and why you have to jump.
I'm going to share something with you. I'm going to tell you something that every successful person has to do, including you. Believe it or not, every successful person in this world has jumped. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. You are going to have to jump. You cannot just exist in this life. You have got to try to live. If you are waking up thinking that there's got to be more to your life than it is, man, believe that it is. Believe in your heart of hearts that it is. But to get to that life, you're going to have to jump. Now, I'll tell you why I call it jumping. See, God, when he created all of us, he gave every last one of us a gift at birth. He never created a soul without endowing them with a gift. You just got to quit looking at gifts as running, jumping, singing, dancing. It's more than that. It's if you know how to network, if you can connect dots, if you draw, if you teach. Some of y'all fry chicken better than anybody else, bake pie. Some of you cut hair, color hair. Some people do grass. I got a partner, man, never wanted to go out with us because we stayed out too late. Come on, man, go out with now. I got to get up early morning, cutting Miss Johnson's grass. We kept laughing at this dude, cutting grass. How much they pay you? He got a landscaping company in Cleveland worth $4 million. Because all he do is cut grass. But he was gifted at it. I got a partner on a detail shop, make $800,000 a year detailing cars. He got 6 mobile trucks running around. $800,000 a year. All he do is detail cars. That's his gift. That's what he loved to do. You've got to identify that gift. Now listen to me. When you see people in life, when you're standing on the cliff of life and you see people soaring by, when you see people soaring, going to exotic places, you hear about them doing wonderful things. Maybe you look up the street and your neighbor just gets a car every year, every 2 years. You know, how is he doing that? Have you ever thought, maybe this person right here has identified their gift and is living in their gift? Because your Bible says, your Bible says your gift will make room for you. Your gift, not your education. You go get an education, that's nice. But if you don't use your gift, that education only gonna take you so far, man. I know a lot of people got degrees, man. They ain't even using them. It's your gift. But the only way for you to soar is you got to jump. You got to take that gift that's packed away on your back. You got to jump off that cliff and pull that cord. That gift opens up and provides the soar. If you don't ever use it, you're gonna just go to work. And if you're getting up going to work on a job every day that you hate going to, that ain't living, man. You just existed. At one point in time, you ought to see what living's like. But the only way to see what living like, you gotta jump. And here's the problem. I'm gonna just be real with you. When you first jump, let me tell you something. Your parachute will not open right away. I'm sorry. I wish I could tell you it did, but it don't. When you jump, it's not going to open right away. You're going to hit them rocks. You're going to get some skin tore off on them cliffs. You're going to get all your clothes tore off. You're going to get some cuts on you. You're going to be bleeding pretty bad. But eventually, the parachute has to open. That is a promise of God. That ain't a theory, that's a promise. His promises is true, because listen to me. You cannot name one single thing God has not gotten you through. Name it. And if he ain't got you through it, he currently pulling you through it right now. And the living proof of it is you sitting in here. If he hadn't got you through it, you wouldn't even be here. So if he ain't never not got you through it, why would he not let your parachute open? It has to open, man. But it ain't, you gotta jump, though. Now, here's another thing. You can play it safe and deal without the cuts and the tears. And you can stand on that cliff of life forever safe. But if you don't jump, I got another promise I can make you. Your parachute will never open. You'll never know. You'll never know what God really has for you. See, your God has a wonderful life for you. Once again, I'm going to refer to your Bible. Now, you go down there, you memorize these scriptures, you don't apply them to yourself. Your Bible says that he comes to give you life and give you life more abundantly. If I were you, I would jump. Because that's the only way to get to that abundant life. You got to jump, man. You got to take a chance. Now, when I get through talking, there are those of you who discuss this in the car. Well, I got bills, and I got bills. Whether you stay on the cliff or you jump, you're going to have bills. Well, if I quit my job, I'm going to ruin my credit. If you got a job, you live in check to check. Even if you got A1 credit, you can't buy nothing else no damn way. At one point in time, man, do yourself a favor. Go see what God really do. God hold you up, man. He ain't gonna let you fall. He ain't bring you this far to let you fall. Do yourself a favor, man. Before you leave this world, before you die, jump. Just jump one time. Just jump. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, that's great. Where's your jump? Is it making your first ever home a fourplex building where you live in one unit and rent out the other three? Or maybe it's trading in your two fourplexes with a bunch of equity trapped in them for one 30plex, okay? I don't know that those things are jumps. That could be more like building a parachute, all right? One other angle related to that with income property, if you're working your day job as a civil engineer or an accountant or whatever, and yet you know that your talent and your interest is instead in gardening or in giving people tours of caves or anything else, okay? Then income property gives you that cushion so that when you leave your job in civil engineering or in accounting, your parachute can open right away because with passive real estate income, you don't have the pressure of drawing income from your passion of gardening or giving people tours of caves, okay? As a cash flow investor, you have options. Jumping is less scary. You know when I had to jump? It's when I moved from Pennsylvania to Alaska years ago. People thought I was nuts. And I didn't even have any job or any income in Alaska, but I had to jump because I knew that's where I was happy, skiing, climbing in the mountains, and all that. My latest jump was starting the Get Rich Education podcast back in October of 2014. And you know what? You know why I didn't start the show sooner? You want to know the reason for that? It's because I felt like I did not have enough value to add to other people's lives, okay? I was scared. Well, the show's following was slow to start, but after I had several 100,000 downloads of the show, that's when I felt more confident that I had value to give. I jumped, and now I think about how many listeners' lives I would not have changed if I hadn't launched GRE. And I did that first episode of the show, the first episode of the Get Rich Education podcast from my dining room table in Anchorage, Alaska. And that first episode still gets new downloads every day today, okay? I think that first show sounded more simple and innocent, but, whatever. It was authentic because that first episode, it includes the same GRE principles that I still talk about today. And you can still find that first episode on iTunes, or you can listen at GetRichEducation.com and a lot of other places. I know some podcasters that pull down their first episode because they feel like it's so bad that they don't want anyone to hear it, all right? But I won't do that. And another thing about the show as we go forward here now with the show is that realize that I'm not going to agree with every guest that I have on GRE. If I strictly bring on guests that I agree with, then I am basically doing a disservice to you over the long term. Because oftentimes understanding a topic well means approaching it from different points of view. So I'm not going to agree with every guest. If you've been considering a career change, consider jumping and the opportunity cost of not jumping. Okay, you can either exist in this world or you can live. You can survive or you can thrive, kind of like I said right there in that first episode of GRE. To some of you, buying your first turnkey real estate investment from outside of your market in Mid-South Homebuyers, Memphis, Tennessee, that's going to feel like a jump, though I don't know that that's a full jump there. And, don't time the market. Consider the economic cost of waiting. Don't time the market. It could be time for you to make your jump, okay? Most anything worthwhile in life involves some degree of risk, and your future depends on what you do today. I often think of the old timer at the real estate meeting as I progress through life here. That person, usually a guy, says, I wish I would have bought more. I wish I would have bought sooner. And I wish I would have sold less. Imagine if you would have bought 30 houses 30 years ago. Where do you think you'd be? All right. So when you think about jumping, think about life this way. You don't know the future. Nobody does. All right. You don't know the future, and the future's not conspiring against you, but it also does not line up and connect all of the dots for you either. That's why when you jump, you'll almost always jump before you feel like you're ready, all right? If you don't feel exactly ready, well, then that might just be the perfect time to jump. Well, jump on over to iTunes or whatever podcatching device you use and use the subscribe option for Get Rich Education. By being subscribed to GRE, which is completely free, you will have every weekly episode delivered to you automatically. Hey, we'll see you next week. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. If you want to fully live your life, you have to jump, so don't quit your daydream.
You've been listening to Get Rich Education, telling you what the wealthy won't tell you about real estate and investing. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to visit iTunes and leave your comments.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.